morning. It's Saturday, September 2nd. And the other day, yesterday actually, I mentioned in my rant about the age of some of our government officials, specifically Mitch McConnell and Dianne Feinstein. And there's a couple of others who are up there, and also there's Joe Biden. And of course, Donald Trump is not a young man. So I talk about the age of these people and about that the time has come for some of them to retire, because in the case of McConnell, it's obvious that some form of failing health is causing him to black out at periods, just freeze. And Feinstein has been confined to a wheelchair, basically. I don't know for how long. She was out for months and didn't show up until the end of the sessions, it seemed. She showed up to vote in person. So I don't know why she's still on the job. I mean, there should be something that says they have a medical exam, and if they're not healthy enough to do the job, then they retire. These people have been there for a long, long time. It's not like they're there for 4 or 5 years and then they're forced to. I mean, these people I'm talking about have been serving this country and doing a great job. No complaints about the service that they provided to the country. Although I might complain about McConnell, but I think he was trying to do the best he could do for the people of Kentucky. And that's, I guess, what they send him there for. Even though the best for Kentucky is screwing a lot of other parts of the country. So when you look at it, he was sent to the Senate to do for Kentucky what he was supposed to do. So in any event, something has to be done about the aging of our government. And apparently it has dawned on leaders in Congress and the Senate that they have to do something. So they're going to have some kind of special meeting after and because of McConnell's freeze. And it takes just 5 Republicans to force such a sit-down. The most direct way to specifically discuss their future amid the many questions that have arisen about the leader's health. And if you look at some pictures that I've just seen of McConnell, he's lost a lot of weight. He looks very thin and frail. So I'm sure that these guys who are in the Senate have noticed that too. And it probably hasn't come as a shock to many of them that he's been freezing on the job. But of course they're going to be closed-mouthed, because they're a tight-knit community, so to speak, and they're not going to talk out against one another. And even if they say those things, the way this country is set up, everything becomes a political deal. So if you talk against McConnell and you're a Democrat, it's politically. It's not the fact that he's true and that he's sick. So the Democrats can't really accuse him of being too ill to do the job, because that will be turned into a political battle. And it shouldn't be a political battle. If they're unhealthy and they can't do the job, and somebody has to step forward and say, look, Mitch, it's time to go home. It's time to rest. It's time to It's time to be a local Kentuckian. Wait for the Kentucky Derby. Do something good without showing up in Washington. So there are some senators who have discussed the possibility of a broader conversation once the rest of the guys show up for work in Washington next week. That's according to a person directly involved in the conversations. Of course, he confirmed them on the condition of anonymity, and I don't blame him, because if they find out he's doing that, who knows what will happen to him in the way those parties operate, You can't stand alone and defy the members of the party or defy party leadership. That's not the way it's done. So it'd be very tough for any one of these guys to stand up and admit that he's been having this conversation with newsmen or other media players, right? And party leadership right now is not currently involved in these discussions. So it's rank and file members who are looking at putting together 5 people to hold this meeting and decide whether McConnell is healthy enough to continue. And that's according to the person. So here you have a sick leader, and the other leaders are refusing to admit or refusing to do this. And maybe just because they're looking at their own age, because obviously if you get to be a leader, you've probably been around there for a while, they're worried about what somebody's going to do to them what they might decide to do to McConnell. So it's a nasty, nasty game. Political in one core and self-preservation in another area. And the right thing to do is not being done. Now, if McConnell was a reasonable guy, somebody could sit down with him and say, look, Mitch, it's obvious you're not well enough to do this job. So why don't you get these doctors' reports and get everything out of the way? And if they tell you that there's nothing wrong with you, then you should go continue to work. And if something is wrong, then gracefully retire. Your pension, you're locked in, you're set for the rest of your life. Don't hang around in Washington and shorten your life. If somebody had the coolioons to tell him that, we might be in a different place, because that would be the sensible things to do. But that's not the way our government runs. The sensible thing is invariably the wrong thing, especially if they come for the opposition. Anything that comes for the opposition has to be motivated by, so what does that mean? Politics. That's the way these people think. They don't think that somebody's out there trying to do the best for the country. Somebody is out there always to do the best for their party, their side. They have to get away from that. We have to recognize that these people work for the people of the United States of America, and they have to do best for the people of the United States of America, not for their party, not for their state government, not for their congressmen and their senators. They have to do what's right for the country. And it's not right to have a group of people running around in Congress and the Senate who are not healthy enough to do the job. And they don't have to call a special meeting. This could be a group of 5 people that get together and decide they're going to do this, or 10 people, and then they pick 5 and go do the thing. And in fact, what most people don't know is that these senators and congressmen, they go to lunch together all the time. And their lunches consist of 5 or 6 or 7 people sitting around a table and talking. So it could be just a luncheon group that puts together the needed policy to go to McConnell and say, Mitch, it's time to retire, or Feinstein, it's time to get out. So this doesn't have to be a complicated formal deal. It just has to be 5 members who got together and decided to do this thing. Is that so tough when the country's future is at stake? And I say the future is at stake because we can't have a bunch of old men running this country for much longer. We need some new, fresh blood, some new, fresh thinking, and the ability to once again come together and work together for the good of the country and not for the good of your party. So I leave you with those agonizing thoughts today. Have a great day. Bye.